So 4th and 5th graders, welcome again to a beautiful issue of Mrs. Johnston trying to do YouTube videos. Today we're going to continue with our data and measurement section by looking at converting customary measurements. We've done metrics earlier in the year, and those are kind of nice because all you have to do is multiply or divide by 10 or 100 or 1,000. It's really easy. Customary measurements we're more accustomed to, but the conversion process is just a little bit more complicated. So we're going to talk about this today. Let's start by looking at customary measures of length. It's called linear measurement. Our standard measurement is an inch. An inch is that long. Inches are for measuring small things, like for instance, my pen is 5.5 inches long. If you have 12 inches, then you have a foot, which is about this long. Handy for measuring, if I can get my little stopper, for measuring bigger things, like my bouquet of flowers is a foot and about 3 inches tall. We also have yards, which are 3 feet. So if I have 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, that's a yard. And I could use my yard to measure my table, which is a little over a yard long. I have a little song. My students know that I like singing songs for math. Parents, you can keep singing this song until they can say it back to you, and that could be an incentive to get them to learn it. 12 inches in a foot, 3 feet in a yard. A yard has 36 inches. This is not so hard. Repeat as often as necessary until your children memorize it. For the overachievers, if you want to go out to a mile, it takes 5,280 feet to make a mile. And if you divide that by 3, that number of feet by 3, you'll get how many yards in a mile, and it's 1,760. I looked it up on Google, so you can trust me. No, I actually did the math. We also have units of capacity. Units of capacity are how much an item will hold. If you often work in the kitchen, you have cups. A cup is half of one of these measures. Then you have pints, which is all the way up to the top of this smaller cup. My bigger cup holds 2 pints, which is a quart. And if I had 4 of these, I could fill up my gallon milk jug, which is a gallon. A way we've taught the students how to remember this, just for you parents, just so that you know what it looks like. You take the biggest unit, which is gallons. Inside a gallon, you can fit 4 quarts. Q. Each cup, or each quart has 2 pints. And every pint has 2 cups. Your students should be pretty familiar with this, but it's handy if you're trying to figure out a conversion. So if you were looking at this and you wanted to know how many pints in a gallon, you could say, well, how many peas are there inside this gallon? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So how many would be in 2 gallons? That would be 8 plus 8 more is 16. Anyway, it's kind of a handy thing, and you'll see that on one of the worksheets that you have this week coming up. Finally, we can take a look at weight, and I don't have a song for this one. I'm sorry, stuff happens like that sometimes. It takes 16 ounces to make 1 pound. The abbreviation for ounces almost makes sense. It's OZ. The abbreviation for pound makes no sense at all. It's LB. I'm sorry, I didn't make that one up. And then it takes 2,000 pounds to make a ton. So if I wanted to do a conversion, if I had 3 pounds, I'm going to say each one of these circles is a pound. And each pound is 16 ounces. I could either add 16 plus 16 plus 16, or I could do 16 times 3. 6 times 3 is 18. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, and that would be 48 ounces. I can also go the other direction. If I have 80 ounces and I want to know how many pounds that is, I take my 80 and I'm going to divide that into groups of 16. Fourth graders could start adding 16s together. You know that it takes 3 16s to make 48. And so you could start with your 48 and add 16 more and just keep doing that. Or if you're a fifth grader and you've got the division, I'm going to move up here just so I have a little more space. How many 16s can you get out of 80? Whoops. I could play with it a little bit and I could find out that it's 5. 16 times 5 equals 80 with none left over. So on today's worksheets, or this week's worksheets, I'm sorry, I should say, you're going to be doing some conversions with customary units. I've included a conversion guide, so if you forget some of this, you don't have to go back to the video, you can look at that. Fifth graders, I'm going to include a video that talks about dividing, because I have a lot more of those conversions that require dividing, and I wanted to show you some different strategies for that. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy your work, stay safe at home, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.